What's going on, guys? This is my post-ride review of the Suzuki GSXS 750. Before I dive too deep into this video though, I've got to send a huge shout out to Hunter, Tommy, and the rest of the gang over at Stub Cycles for allowing me the opportunity to throw a leg over this machine and bring it to you. In the description, I will also include the link to the ride-along video so that you can see my reactions to this motorcycle in real time. Spoiler alert, I kind of developed a bit of a crush on this bike. So what makes it so special? Well, being that it's the only four-cylinder in a sea of other 3/4 liter, give or take, displacement sport naked bikes, that makes it special enough on its own. But it's what four-cylinder is powering this machine. Guys, this is the exact same engine, or at least block, that would be found in the 2005-2006 era of the GSXR 750. Meaning that it's the big bore 750 engine that is what put the GSXR 750 so solidly on the map back in the days. I know, I used to own one. So that engine, when it's cammed now and tuned for more mid-range punch, well, I gotta tell you, it's very similar to my GSXR 750. Not just my old one, but my new one. In fact, there's areas just within tip-in throttle where that bike feels stronger than my R750. So kudos to that bike. It's an amazing machine to ride. Now, it is a little bit heavy just in terms of outright wet weight. This thing weighs in at about 465 pounds, but it's got a lot of horsepower. This thing's rated at somewhere around 112 at the flywheel, but as I was riding it, I don't know that I believe that number. You know, Suzuki's always have a funny knack for being overachievers, regardless of what numbers they are spec'd with or whatever number they put down on a dyno even. They always seem to run better than what the spec sheet or the dyno would maybe suggest. And the S750 is no different. I found myself while I was riding this bike almost feeling like I was riding a GSXR 750, and for the most part there's not a lot that separates the two. But I had also ridden the parallel twin bikes. Remember that I've ridden an MT-07, I've ridden the GSX-8R, I've also ridden the new Hornet 750, and compared to those motorcycles, well, the S750 just felt like it was in a completely different league. Where those other motorcycles did develop a nice punchy power band, lots of torque, they all fell off when you started to push them harder in the upper RPM range. And second to that, those motorcycles are very light, in some cases upwards of 40 pounds lighter. But just because they're lighter doesn't necessarily make them better. They're down on power, but they're also down on stability when you compare them to the GSX-S 750. So if you put bumpers on the displacement that you want to talk about and limit the class to just that 3/4 of a liter range, give or take, well, the 750 makes significantly more horsepower, about 15 more than even the most powerful offering in the parallel twins. Now, you start to compare this motorcycle to, say, the Street Triple 765, well, that trend just keeps continuing, with the S just in general feeling like a much more substantial motorcycle. And this is where I kind of have to come full stop with this bike, because of the motorcycles that I had mentioned, we haven't talked about price. With the least expensive checking in with the Hornet 750, well, that bike's $8,000 MSRP. Well, the GSX-S 750 MSRP at the time of this video, $8,700. So it's not even 10% more expensive, but you get a motorcycle with significantly more power. So what are the downsides? Well, it doesn't have a quick shifter, and for some guys, that's gonna be a real problem. But I'll just go out on a limb and say this. If you're looking at the S750, chances are you know why you're here. You're looking for the four-cylinder. You're not looking for something that's punchy, light, and flickable. You're looking for a motorcycle that is, say, a bit more advanced. That's where the S750 tends to shine. The overwhelming sense of that bike that I got when you compare it to its less than 4-cylinder siblings, again, under that 800cc range, what I found with the S750 is it just felt like a more developed motorcycle from a riding experience. It felt more solid. It felt more planted. It felt faster in general, but it just felt like a more complete bike. The build quality felt better. So wrapping all of that up, just talking about specifications, the S750 is impressive, but that's not what tugged at my heartstrings, guys. It was the theater and the sound of this bike, the throttle response of this machine. No, it doesn't have a quick shifter, but the throttle response is incredibly quick, and it made for blip downshifts. Well, it was intuitive. It felt just like my GSXR 750. And that was something that I found a bit endearing. You're more involved in the riding process, but something that really drew me in was the noises that this bike made. The exhaust sounds great, but the intake growl is very reminiscent of the GSXR 750, but just a bit deeper. And it was so engaging, and it made me want to play with this motorcycle. So as I was riding it, I was instantly falling in love with this thing. And I was falling in love with it in a way that was not like I did with the Hornet, where it was like, oh, this bike is cute, it's fun, it's flickable, it's light, it's like riding a dirt bike. That's not the S750. It's on the other end of the bookshelf. It's a more stable, a more planted motorcycle, a bit more mature, and I gotta tell you, for me, it felt like I could, on any B or C road, just absolutely run away from the Hornet. At least I had the confidence to do so on the S750, mainly because of that stability, but also because the power output, guys, is just really that good. But here's the other thing that I found. In that ride-along video is a little bit long. The reason why it's a little bit longer is I found myself having more fun with that bike than I thought that I would. When I got it to the back of the dealership on the MSF course, I'm playing with it. I'm dropping this thing into the little really tight turns that are on that course. And I'm just having fun with it. And even though it is a bit more of a mature, a little bit more solid feeling bike than the other motorcycles that I'd ridden, primarily the Parallel Twins, guys, the bike, I literally could have gotten right back on the road and kept riding and kept talking about it and finding new things and probably new ways to get in trouble with that bike. So again, you noticing a trend here? Love the power plant, love the looks of the bike. Everything about it was just very reminiscent of an old school street fighter that you would have seen back in the day. That's what made it so endearing to me. The uniqueness in the class of having a 4-cylinder, the snarls, the growls, and everything else. Guys, that's enough to do it for me. And if you're looking at this motorcycle and you're coming from, say, a 600 sport bike and you do want a sport naked in the middleweight class, you're not going to want another motorcycle other than the S750. You get all the power, the noise, and it's a very familiar power delivery, and you're going to be getting a bike that would kind of walk out of the life of that 600 that you might have been looking at least on the street. So with that, guys, post up your comments. Let me know what you think about this bike. Thanks for stopping by. Hope to catch you on the next one. Take care.